we've just gotten our first look at 28 years later. Director Danny Boyle is reuniting with screenwriter Alex Garland and actor Cillian Murphy for this new zombie film, which kicks off a fresh trilogy. The original, 28 Days Later, was released in 2002 and played a key role in launching Murphy's career. A solid sequel, 28 Weeks Later, followed in 2007, but Murphy didn't return, and Boyle only served as a producer. Spanish director Juan Carlos Fresnadillo took over, with Robert Carlyle starring, resulting in a decent horror sequel, though fans have long hoped for a return to the original team. Fast forward to 2024, and it looks like that wish is coming true. Murphy, fresh off his role in Oppenheimer, is set to return to a zombie-infested Britain for an intense new adventure. The film was originally going to be titled 28 Months Later, continuing the theme of the movie's title structure. However, after so many years since the last sequel, Boyle, Garland, and Murphy agreed that 28 Years Later felt like a more fitting title. This new chapter promises to bring even more chilling, high-stakes drama to the post-apocalyptic world. 28 Years Later is set to hit UK cinemas on June 20th, 2025. Before that, don't miss Cillian Murphy in Small Things Like These, which has already garnered praise for its performance. The sequel wrapped filming in August 2024, though additional photography took place in Bradford in September. In an interesting twist, Boyle chose to shoot the film using iPhones, pairing them with high-end camera lenses for a unique cinematic look. Danny Boyle's original 28 Days Later had a huge impact on the zombie genre, revitalizing it and bringing about a surge of undead adventures on both film and TV. It even paved the way for mega hits like The Walking Dead. While the official trailer isn't out yet, a sneak peek on Instagram gave fans a glimpse of the action. Terry Blackburn shared a post from Northumberland, showing Jodie Comer looking battered and stressed as she fled from terrifying zombies. Also spotted on set was Edvin Riding, who plays a Swedish soldier. These look amazing, and 28 Years Later definitely has some things fans want to see in the new trilogy. The first big one is that it should continue the immunity storyline from 28 Weeks Later. While the end of 28 Days Later had a somewhat hopeful vibe, the sequel took a darker turn. 28 Weeks Later wrapped up with the infected causing chaos in Paris, meaning the rage virus likely spread across Europe. However, there was a bit of hope. Tammy and Andy, two young characters, appeared to be immune to the virus. Andy even carried it without showing any symptoms by the movie's end. So, if the kids from 28 Weeks Later return in 28 Years Later, their immunity could be key to finding a cure. The last time we saw them, they were left behind in France, and it's unclear if they survived the rage virus outbreak there. It's possible that the new movie will address this and keep pushing forward with that plotline from 28 Days Later. Another thing fans are hoping for is that Tammy and Andy return 28 years later. Not only could they play a key role in finding a cure for the rage virus, but they were also really interesting characters in their own right. Although 28 Weeks Later started off focused on Robert Carlyle's character Dawn, the story shifted to Tammy and Andy when their father was infected by their asymptomatic mother. Dawn ended up killing his wife and going on a rampage, which turned Tammy and Andy into the film's main protagonists for the second half. The pair were compelling, and Imogen Poots, who played Tammy, has since become a staple in the horror genre, with films like Vivarium and Green Room. So, even if their blood didn't lead to the cure everyone hoped for in 28 Weeks Later, it would make sense for Tammy and Andy to return in 28 years later. Beside them, fans want Idris Elba's character, General Stone, to return to answer for his mistakes. Elba, who played the military leader in 28 Weeks Later, has since become a huge star, so scheduling could be a challenge for his return. But his character's actions in the previous film were so central to the chaos that unfolded, it feels like his storyline must be addressed. Stone was responsible for some of the worst decisions in 28 Weeks Later, from allowing Dawn to escape to ordering his troops to shoot indiscriminately at both the infected and innocent civilians. His incompetence led to countless deaths, making him one of the most dangerously flawed characters in the series. With his major role in the events of the last film, it only makes sense that 28 years later should provide an update on what happened to him after the collapse of the military efforts. Fans want closure and, of course, accountability for his disastrous leadership. Another thing fans are hoping to see in 28 years later is the infection spreading worldwide. One of the biggest questions left by 28 weeks later is whether the infected attacking Paris led to a global outbreak of the Rage virus. The sequel definitely left things looking grim for humanity, so it makes sense for 28 years later to start with confirmation that the virus spread across the globe. This would build on what the previous film set up for the future. In the original 28 Days Later, it was already hard to believe that the virus could be contained in Britain, and with the infected running riot in the heart of Paris at the end of 28 weeks later, it's nearly impossible to think that the virus didn't spread worldwide. If the virus somehow stayed confined to France, it would feel like a letdown, making the stakes of the sequel no higher than the previous films. Since the virus has been around for so long, the infected should have evolved by now. There was even a plan in the original film for the infected to speak, shouting obscenities. This could be brought back in 28 years later as a sign that the infected have become more intelligent, a trait hinted at in 28 weeks later. For example, Dawn's behavior after being infected showed a more advanced level of reasoning, so it would be cool to see that development in the infected as a whole. Just like the zombies in Romero's later Night of the Dead films, the infected might have to evolve to survive in the changing world, which would make them both scarier and more relatable. Fans are also hoping that 28 years later brings back the social satire that made the original films so sharp. Much like George Romero's zombie movies, 28 Days Later had a political edge, criticizing both the government and military. In 28 Days Later, the military was portrayed as dangerously corrupt, while in 28 weeks later, they were so incompetent that they actually helped the Rage virus spread. For 28 years later, it would be disappointing if the movie shied away from this dark social commentary. The film should continue to expose the flaws of the military and politicians, staying true to the biting satire of the original movies. This could be achieved by bringing back a character from 28 weeks later, perhaps someone who represents the corruption or incompetence of those in power, helping to highlight the ongoing failures of those in charge. One final fan wish for 28 years later is that the iconic score from the original 28 Days Later makes a return. The haunting, intense track, In the House in a Heartbeat, composed by John Murphy, became synonymous with the film and has since been featured in other projects like Kick-Ass. It's most famously remembered for accompanying Jim's bloody rampage through an abandoned mansion at the climax of the first film. This music, with its building tension and emotional shift from chaos to quiet moments, perfectly captured the balance between horror and character-driven drama in 28 Days Later. Not bringing it back for 28 years later would definitely feel like a missed opportunity, as it's become an integral part of the franchise's atmosphere. I am hoping to hear it once again as the story unfolds in the new sequel. Well, that's it. Please share your views and opinions in the comments section with us. Click the like button, share this video, and subscribe to the channel to get updated regularly with the latest update. Thank you so much for watching our video today, and we will see you at the next one.